Thank you. We are doing a very quick overview of AssetAccountant today, which is it's a fully featured depreciation engine to make automation of fixed assets depreciation calculation and journaling really easy. So what we are going to do, I'll just draw you to the screen. This is the welcome screen when you log into AssetAccountant. This can be set up in this can be configured in a whole lot of different scenarios depending on the use case. So in this particular example, we've got an organization here with a whole heap of entities and registers. You can have multiple organizations, multiple entities, multiple registers per entity. And then of course, with the setup with users, that can also be done with various application in terms of read-only access, user access, and so forth. So in the registers, there's one I'm going to look at today. You don't need to be linked with any other general ledger software. In this case, I'm looking at, we've got various instances of Xero, Sage Intacct. For the purpose of this demonstration today, I'm just going to go into an asset register that is actually linked to Sage Intacct. When I open the register, you are greeted on the left-hand side here with all of the asset groups. The little number to the right is the corresponding number of assets in each one of those. We can edit those at any time. And just up here, you'll notice that we are looking at the tax view. We can toggle this between accounts view and tax view at any particular time, and the grid will update accordingly. I'll just put that back to tax view. You can also set your calendar period to any period past, present, and future, and the grid will update. I will just keep this to the current period. Oh, you can change that to financial year, current year to date, previous year to date, next year, or current financial year, previous or next. Very extensible. You can get any view and you can export any view into a CSV at any time. So just some of the information that you're seeing here is just the current values as of this period of the items that are in the register. So if I just just click that down arrow, here you'll see a whole lot of assets that are in use with their current tax value and the details relating to those particular assets. Now, some clients might have asset registers with literally thousands of assets. It is really easy to do. Well, let's have a look at, I know a vehicle has a registration number of AVN, for example. So I can look up the Nissan X-Trail here, or we might want to look up server. And here's the information with any of the items that are servers, and we can just go straight into those assets. There's many ways that you can configure AssetAccountant. We do have low value pool. We obviously run journals, but I'll get there when the time is right. So let's just go back into, oh, sorry, I've gone too far back. My apologies. Let me just go back into that register. There's various ways that you can add an asset. You can do it manually via the interface here. So you can add an asset from scratch. If you're integrated with a general ledger product, in this case, we've got Sage Intacct. If you've added any assets through their accounts payable, this will come up in the draft assets, and you can choose to add those into the asset register accordingly. So that is quite a feature of AssetAccountant and the integrations that we have with Xero, Sage Intacct, QuickBooks, and various others that we are working with now. We can also post journals at any stage, but I will just go into an asset. I'm just going to now show you an example of an asset, and this will show you some of the functionality that we do have in AssetAccountant. Oh, sorry, I might not have said this. So sorry, there's four ways you can add assets. It's via the interface, manually. You can do it through the integration, or three ways, or you can add through a CSV import. So you can add literally thousands of assets at any one time and have them active in your register. This particular asset that we're looking at, you can see the tax. These are all of the basic details. So diminishing values, 7 years. First use, opening balance. We imported this register as of the 30th of June 2020 with written down values, and we've got a full implementation guide as to how you can migrate your existing system for depreciating assets into the new system. This one has all opening balances as of the 30th of June. Accumulated depreciation as at the 30th of June, taxable use, and so forth. Let's just go back into our current period, October 2021. And this will update the grid. And there's the accumulated depreciation, for example, as at the 31st of October 2021. Now, down the bottom here, when this populates, is all of the details for the particular asset. I might just make that screen a little bit wider. And there's the depreciation figures from the 30th of June 2020 with the opening balance date, and your depreciation numbers up to the current period that would be posted to journals. There's lots of stuff you can do in here. You can reassess any particular asset at any time. You can transfer to the small business pool or local or low value pool, depending on how you've set your register up in your asset settings. You can also do adjustments. So adjustments of depreciation, adjustments of cost. There's various reasons why accountants may like to do that. And you can also reassess taxable use. So a particular example is motor vehicles. You can reassess from 100% to say 86% taxable use, or whatever you would like to use. Just some details of the asset. We run classifications, so you can transfer. This particular asset register has a number of cost centers. So typically cost centers are done by location, but AssetAccountant is very extensible. You can split your journal data up and split your depreciation data up into however your business makes sense. So it might be projects, it might be cost centers, it might be staff. There's any number of ways you might like to do that. We can also add custom fields. So you might like to, as in that example that I gave before, you might like to add registration numbers, license numbers, warranty, date numbers, etc. Or you can even add attachments to choose image files, PDFs, or you can even add a link to SharePoint or a document management system as a permanent permanent location for that particular asset. So let's just go back to the tax data. And that is really all I wanted to show you here. There's various actions you can do. Oh, sorry, as well as the basic accounts data, we can add components. So let's say you've got a motor vehicle and you want to add a component, a CB radio that you might like to instantly write off and for tax, but want to depreciate it at a different rate to the car. You can actually have a parent and child relationship. We could also add quantities. So this is a whole lot of widgets and lots of red widgets. We can add a quantity to that and say, well, there's 30,000 of those, and we can partially write off or sell or whatever we need to do with that particular asset. A salient example is clients of ours might buy 100 iPads at any one time, and they might want to write off 5, but they don't want to add individual line items. They want to be able to write off a percentage or a number accordingly against the original asset. So that is able to be done here. You can reverse any actions, but I think that is probably all you need to see. And again, you can export any data into a CSV. I'll just briefly touch on reporting functionality in AssetAccountant. So we support various number of reports. Asset summaries, disposals, acquisitions, forecasting. We also integrate with CCH and TaxLab so that we can export depreciation data and be able to easily import data into those two pieces of software, largely used. We also support lease and hire purchase assets, so right of use assets. I might just very quickly show you how to add an asset via the interface. It is really easy, remembering that you can do this in bulk or via an integration. So we'll just call this a test asset. You can add code numbers, descriptions. We might say this is in machinery and equipment. Give it a cost of $100,000. We'll say it was purchased on the 1st of October 2021. We can allocate our quantity here if we wanted to break it up into partially disposable units. This is where we can add our classifications. So it might belong to the sales. We might have an employee that we link to, site 1, and location, we'll just say it's in Brisbane. Custom fields, you might like to add a serial number, for example, add whatever serial number makes sense. And this is where you can choose your tax depreciation. You might use diminishing value for tax, and you might use prime cost for accounts and depreciate it a little more aggressively for tax. That's up to you. We also have a pretty handy lookup tool here. So we might look for, I'm just making this completely up. Here we are. I've just selected press, and this interrogates the tax guide. So you can choose, you can even look up the table, and it'll take you to exactly where you need to be to look up on the ATO's website. So just with the taxation rulings of various assets. So a very handy piece of data there. If you select that for tax, you can see hydraulic presses, that's automatically added. The effective life of 10 years is added. Taxable use, that's where you can manipulate this, and the notes are added accordingly, and just save that asset, and that is as good as done. And now when I put on the test asset, here's all the details that we added. I'll just briefly show you this before I move on. So there's the serial number. I didn't add an attachment, but we can do that. And for tax, there's our purchase, first use, the classification was added employee. So we do keep a running audit trail of everything that happens, or every event that happens to an asset in AssetAccountant. It is noted for auditing purposes. Very simple. I might just briefly run on to register settings. This is when you set up a register for the first time in AssetAccountant, and for anybody watching this, it is really easy to do. You can just contact Thrive, and they'll be able to set you up an account, or you can actually do it via our interface and just set up a very simple trial account so that you can test anything that you've seen here, or even manipulate some of your scenarios. So we do support various jurisdictions, currencies. You can follow IFRS, or if you're really keen, you can follow US GAAP. Daily depreciation, which is recommended because that is much more accurate, or you can choose monthly. Our New Zealand clients prefer that. Where you can set up your pools, low value pools, software pools. Integration, like I said, we currently support various general ledgers that we can connect to. And this is where you can add any classifications. So we've got, in this particular register, site, location, employee, department. We can sync with whatever's integrated. Like I said, currently we're integrated with Sage Intacct. So this is reading directly into Sage Intacct. And these are all the things we can map. But at the moment, we only have department, location, employee, and that's it. We can add others, create new ones, but and this is where you just map the details of department, admin, services. So it's really just linking everything up there. And the last thing I might show you is just posting journals, your depreciation data. Really easy to do. If we create a journal for the current period, I'll show you what this looks like. Assuming you've added your acquisitions and disposals, and you can do those in bulk, but all I've done here is for the current period, we now have a view of, oh, this is just a little bit slow to load. Oh, here we go. So I've now collapsed that, and we can have a look at all of our asset groups. Oh, not quite sure what's going on there. I'll just refresh the screen. But journals are, oh, let's see. Sorry, just bear with me while this refreshes. Sometimes when you screen share, it gets a little bit slow. Loading. Okay, it just seems to be taking a little while to populate. But while that's doing that, we run our, oh, geez, that really is slow, so pardon me, but maybe you can test this when you set up your own account. But yeah, very, very, very slow to populate, as you can see. But just in each asset group, depreciation expense, and this is breaking it up into each individual cost center that we had in the, I don't know what's going on there. Sorry, this is Murphy's Law. Okay, but if anyone, just practice running a journal yourself, and you'll see when it's working that it'll split up into the classifications that you had nominated. I think that is probably the overall view of what I wanted to show. Sorry, journals weren't quite working. I don't know what happened there, but we can always set that up and run some test data in your individual accounts.
Awesome, thanks, Mark.
And that is, yeah.
I'm just going to stop the recording.